With that, everyone, welcome to our Prepare for the Fall Job and Internship Fair workshop. And so, just to make sure everyone can see the presentation okay, if I can see like thumbs up reacts. Let's see. Or it looks good. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. And so, with that, just to quickly introduce myself. And so, my name is Sarah Sasaki, and I'm an internship and employment specialist here at the Career Development Center. And I don't know if there's any fellow Gilmore Girls fans here, but because we are fully in autumn, or I feel like we're in autumn now, I had to bring that out just to go along with the vibe there. All right. And so, this is a scene from the show. And so, again, just to go with our fall career fair theme. Okay, and so, all right, to start us off, just with a little bit of housekeeping. So, for class assignments, and so if you are here for a class assignment, like, oh, I have to attend like a workshop or use a CBC service, you are required to take a picture of your handwritten or typed notes with today's date. It's October 10, 2024, and email them to cdcevents@csulb.edu. And for the subject line, you would put down class assignment, prepare fall job workshop. All right, and then in the email, you're going to want to make sure to include your name, ID number, student ID number, class name, and your instructor name as well. And so I'm just going to give it a moment there. If anyone needs to take a picture of that, please feel free to do so. All right, and so I'll give it another minute. I'll do a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think that's all right there. Okay. And so with that, now we're going to go into some guidelines. So if you have any questions, please message them in the chat. If it's a quick question, I may be able to answer it in that moment, but if not, I will get to it at the end of the presentation where we'll have time for like kind of like a mini Q&A there. And the presentation slides and this will be emailed after. And again, the recording will be in our YouTube channel. And you can just go to YouTube and just type in CSULB Career Center and you'll see like our logo and you can just click on that. All right, and so with that, the Fall Job and Internship Fair, it is going to be on next week, Thursday, October 17th from 12 to 4 p.m. And so I do want to say it's okay if you come early. It's okay if you come late. If you come early, we'll have you queue up before we start check-in. And if you're like, oh, I have class at 12, it's okay if you come later in the day. That is totally fine. All right. And so for the career fair, so this is targeted towards bringing together talented CSULB students, all of yourselves, together with employers who are recruiting for full-time, part-time, and internship opportunities across all majors. And I do want to say for our upcoming fair, we do have a variety of positions, but I do want to say usually the standouts or the ones that we have most of are, the full-time, the paid internships, and the part-time jobs as well. All right, so I just wanted to show, some pictures from last year's Fall Job and Internship Fair. Just again, if this is your first time coming, just to kind of, again, better understand what it's like. And so again, it is going to be, you can see in the picture, you have your resume ready to go. They also have a pen, like they're taking notes, you're going to get to talk to employers here. And again, if you notice in the pictures, you are going to be around a lot of other people as well. And so, yeah, depending on what the employer wants, you might be doing a one-on-one conversation. Some of them would do kind of like what this picture is. We're going to do like a group situation where, I can just kind of give an overview all at once versus giving it like individually. And I can look how happy everyone is. I will say the fairs, there's a lot going on, but it is a lot of fun to get to know the employers as well too, and like other students. And then, yeah, again, for each table, you'll be able to see again, which company is it for? And you'll see, there's some like freebies that they have. I think in the other table, they have like some pens and, overall, all the employers have a lot of materials to share with students too, just to give you a better idea about the work they do. All right, and so to start off our presentation, we are going to be getting into before the fair. Again, how can you best prep, before you go into the day of next week? All right, so firstly, you're going to go to your single sign-on. You're going to want to RSVP. And so you'll go to your single sign-on where you find like Canvas. You're going to click on your career link chiclet. It's so important to RSVP just because, if you do RSVP, you are able to you're placed in a line where you can enter the fair, you know, like, before, other people there. So of course we're letting in everyone at 12 o'clock. But for example, like if you were in the RSVP line, that means we checked you in already, and you have, I guess, a more closer spot to the front of the line to enter the fair, if that makes sense. And so I do recommend making sure to RSVP, before the event. And not just on the day of, I would say if you're able to now, if you know you're going, that's what I'd recommend there. All right, and so when you click on, your career link chiclet and you're taken in, this is the career link homepage. And you are going to go to the top and you're going to click on that part that says events. You'll click there, and then you'll see this page come up. And to, help you get to the job there immediately, if you're not seeing it, you can just click on type here, and then you can click on job fairs. You can just check that off. Then you'll press apply, and then you'll see the job fair event come up here. All right. And so after that, you'll see the Fall Job and Internship Fair event, and you'll see this button to click attend. Clicking attend, that is your RSVP, and you should receive an email that, says like, oh, thank you for RSVPing, for the event. And just make sure to have that email ready to go on your phone during check-in for verification. That is how we know you RSVP'd. And so yeah, just to make sure to have that open. And sometimes I know with Wi-Fi, it's like, oh my gosh, it's not connecting. And so I do recommend just having like a screenshot of that email as well, just in case if you're not able to load it up in like your Gmail or like your Outlook student email. All right, and again, when you're taken to the event page, you're going to see different sections for like the overview, like the description of the fair, employers, and jobs. All right, and so to look at that employers category. So, if you're like, I'm trying to look for very specific employers here for specific fields, make sure to use these filters where you can filter by position type, organization industry, work authorization desired here, and you'll just click apply once you've added on those filters. And so, to kind of go back to that employers part, so this is just some more information. So we do have, I believe, 82 employers attending, so we have a very good number. And again, this fair, it's a wide variety. We have a health organization, we have like education, Boys and Girls Club, we have fashion, Burlington stores, we have, California Air Resources Board, for, more of like the sciences, we have Caltrans, we have construction, CB3 building. And so again, there's a lot of different areas our employers cover for this fair. And like what I was saying, when you're using those different search filters, you can filter out like position types by like internship, part-time, full-time, organization industry, construction, shipping. You can do it, based on like work, authorization, for example, if you are an international student, for like, F1 visa or J1 visa there. And when you look at, the employers, you can also see, what job or jobs they are hiring for. And when you're going through that list of employers, there should be a star symbol. And I think that's just nice to help you keep track of the employers that you definitely want to talk to for yourself. And so, yeah, again, just some more details about that employer section there. And so, just like what I was mentioning before, yeah, make sure to RSVP. And again, when it says early entry, it doesn't mean you're going to be let in before 12, but it does mean that you'll be able to, let's say, you RSVP'd and you get to the fair at like 11:30. Depending on our check-in station that you may be able to check in, you may be able to go inside the building and wait before, at 12, we're going to let everyone into the main rooms. But, while you're waiting, you can talk to other students. You can do our LinkedIn photo booth, get yourself a new headshot there. And yeah, I think this is just a nice way to have an updated picture. And it's super fast and easy to do, and it's free. And so, yeah, that's why I do recommend RSVPing as soon as you're able to for the event. Okay, and so, we're all about your success, you succeeding at the job fair. And so I'll be going through these different areas for the presentation. So succeed, starting off with S, setting those goals for yourself, understanding the industry, constructing a strategy, creating your elevator pitch, exercising your communication skills, examining and revising your resume, and dressing for success. And so all the key components to help you be as successful as you possibly can be at the fair. All right, so for setting goals, so of course, going to the fair, and you going to the fair, that's already a big step. But you want to make sure that the time you're spending there and the people you're talking to is going to be as helpful for you as possible. And so, not just to go in like, oh, I'm just going to check it out and that's it. I mean, if you want to, that could be your goal. But, I think it's good to ask questions like, what do you want to accomplish? Do you only want to talk to like these three companies and these are like the only ones and that's it? Um, or is it like, I just want to practice? Like, I get like nervous talking to employers. I just want to practice for like the next fair that comes up. And then also, again, like what industries are you interested in? Do you want to explore industries that are like related to your major, or are you trying to branch out into new industries there? And again, also the same for companies there too. And so definitely create that action plan. And so I feel like what's really helpful is creating first priority and second priority companies. So what that means is, so of course, all companies are important, but for yourself, which ones do you most want to talk to based on your goals? And then which ones like are you interested in, but it's not going to make or break if you're like, oh my gosh, this was the main reason I came. And so so a way to approach it could be if you start off with like the second priority, like the ones you're interested in, but they're not super high on your list. If you start off with those companies, it could be as like practice for you. You could kind of warm up, kind of ease into the fair that way. Or if you start off with your first priority, like these are the ones like I need to talk to these companies, absolutely 100%. If you start off with them, you probably have more energy because you're just starting off your day. And it would most likely ensure that you have time with these companies because I do want to emphasize, especially for bigger name companies, the lines can get fairly long. And, for some conversations that they have with students, they may be longer as well too. And so just keeping that in mind there. All right. And so this is like an example, if you wanted to kind of create something similar to this where you have your you have like your list. Your first priority, you can put their like their table number. And again, for those table numbers, when you do check in at the fair, we do give you a map of the whole fair. It has the numbers of where the employers are at, and that packet we give you also has what jobs they're hiring for. So we give you everything you need to navigate that space. And then we have the second priority here. All right. And so that was for, kind of setting your goals there. And so now understanding the industry. So really research those employers that you're interested in. Like, of course, they're going to be talking about their companies as well. But I feel like what really impresses them is the students who know about their mission already, who know the services that they provide or the work they do. And, the ones who maybe, like, oh, I saw that update on LinkedIn. That's so exciting for your new campaign or project. Because I feel like that really shows initiative. It shows like a deeper level of interest there. And so when it comes to research, you can, go into Career Link. You can go into our Career Shift platform where you can find under resources, which I'll be showing in a little bit. You can go onto the company's website. You can use Glassdoor, which is, a great website, not just to search for jobs, but to look up like company information as well. And you can use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is always, a classic where with LinkedIn, you can see, again, like, oh, are the companies, posting updates or again, what people are working for these companies as well for that networking part. And so, also understanding what they're looking for. And so, if it's, oh, we're only looking for like entry level employees or, this is a company that really emphasizes community service. Like we give back on a local, regional, global basis. Or again, like what soft skills or like what kind of personality based skills are they seeking? And so whether it's we want someone who is very strong in leadership and someone who's very strong in being a team player as well to someone who can lead and someone who can be in a team because again if you have a better understanding of that then when you talk to them you can highlight those areas like I am seeking an entry level job that is my focus and I really want to bring forth my leadership skills which I grew in from being a part of multiple student leadership boards here on campus. And so, yeah, again, definitely research. And again, yeah, with that research, you get a better idea of what they're looking for there. And so, when it comes to that research part, so when it looks at, company websites, and so usually for a company website, they would have some kind of like, if you see here, like about section or mission or like, who we are. And you can see different areas for this website. You can see the culture, the different divisions they have, projects. You can look at news, what's new and trending for them right now. Um, and, besides the website, you can also see like, do they have social media? Are they on Instagram or TikTok? And also like news articles. Like, if you just search up a company's name on Google, and if you click on where it has like images, books, there'll be something called news, and you can see if there's anything that's come up for them there. And so, yeah, again, another resource for you to look into. And so I think I also want to make a note as you're doing the research, you don't have to like know everything about the company. I think just having that like core understanding of like what they do, what they're looking for, and then of course for yourself, like how can you contribute to that from your experiences? And so when I mentioned career shift, and so to get to career shift, you'll just go back to career link. So for the steps, go to your single sign-on, go to career link and then go to resources and then scroll down and then you will see career shift here. And so career shift, so this is a really great job search tool where career shift, it pulls job postings from the company websites, from LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Indeed, a lot of those big job search sites. But also this is a really nice place where you can look up company information and also potential like contact information for different, employees who work there as well, if they do provide it there. All right, and so for career shift, once you log in or once you register, if it's your first time, then you log in, you'll be taken to like the home page, and this is what it looks like. And so when it comes to looking at that company information, if you look off to this left-hand column, you're going to see companies, click there and then click search. And you can go to company name and you can just type in the company directly. And you'll see it pop up here. You'll see different areas of company jobs, company contacts, company details, and you can just click on that. And then from there, once you clicked on the company, you can see information about, let's see, number of employees, annual revenue, the industries that they're involved with, their headquarters, their main address, their website, and also social media links as well. And so I think this is a really nice resource to use to kind of help centralize a lot of this info for you there. Um, and so that was for career shift. Now, I think another great one to use is Glassdoor. So Glassdoor, when you go into their website, you'll again see on the top different areas. You'll click on companies again, and you'll just type in the company's name here. And so once you click on search, so for example, if I looked at San Diego Gas and Electric, I'm going to see a lot of information here as well. I would say Glassdoor, it does have more information than, Career Shift. I think Career Shift gives more of that kind of like overview, and then Glassdoor gets into more specific details. And so you can see a lot of information about like reviews from past employees who've worked there, jobs, if they are hiring. You can look at salaries that people have shared, interview questions that people have actually been asked. And then, oh yes, for the question in the chat, this will be on YouTube sometime later today. And the presentation slides will also be emailed out to everyone who registered for this workshop. And you can see like, oh, they have different locations. You can look at their website. And so again, really good resource here. And you can also press follow just so that they can stay like on your like dashboard and homepage when you do go on Glassdoor. All right, and so another really good resource, again, is CareerLink. And this is, again, for when you're doing that research of what are they looking for in terms of like skills, experiences, this is really helpful too. Go back to that event page we were on. So again, we were on CareerLink. We went to events, and then we went to the job fair. We clicked on that. And then when you click on the job fair event, you will see these areas for overview, employers, and jobs. You click on employers, the employees who are attending. And, you can click on one of the company names. And then once you do, like, so let's say I think I clicked on Absolute Sports and Recreation. Once I click on them, I'm taken to like their overview page. I can see their description. I can see their website. I can see view all jobs, which is the important part that we're going to click on. So you'll click on view all jobs. and that'll show me the job or jobs that they're hiring for. And so, or that they also have, currently posted on Career Link there. And so when you look at the job posting, and so you'll see the title, you'll see what kind of job type it is. This is a paid internship. And then you can see again, just, a description about who they are, but also, what is, being asked for people who apply for this position. Like what kinds of like duties will you be doing? What kinds of qualifications are they looking for? And so I know sometimes it's like when you're looking at a posting, you're like, oh, this is great information, but there's a lot. I'm like, how do I find those keywords that they're looking for, to add in my resume, to bring up when I talk to them? And so to that, I'm like, great question. And so what I always recommend doing is to help you save time and work smarter is, let's say you have, yeah, that position overview. You could copy this paragraph, just highlight it, and then what you do is you go to this free website, freewordcloudgenerator.com. And with this website, what it does is for whatever text you paste into this website, it's going to give you what are the most frequent words that are coming up. Like what are the words that are coming up the most often there? And so, for example, the text input, I pasted in that position description from the Absolute Sport posting. I hit enter. And now I'm like, okay, the most important ones that I'm seeing are operations, clients, execution, events. But then also some other common ones that are coming up are, okay, hospitality, communication, sourcing. And so I think this is really helpful, I think, for you to hone in on what to focus on, when you talk to them and for your resume as well. All right, and so now we are moving on to creating your elevator pitch. And so I know for the elevator pitch, I know there can be some anxiety that comes up with that because it's like, oh my gosh, what do I say? How do I say it, effectively without not rambling? How do I make it, yeah, as helpful as possible for myself? And so elevator pitches, so these are, usually on the shorter side. They could be anywhere, usually around maybe like 30 to 60 seconds. This is basically you giving to the employer just a very quick overview of who you are, what are you looking for. And so to break it down, for your elevator pitch, you could start off with, your name, very important, your major and what your class year is. Um, and then, a key part is what is your goal? Why are you visiting this table? Are you just trying to learn more information about them? Are you trying to look for, hopefully maybe like a summer internship? And so, yeah, again, and of course, for the most part, I feel like a lot of students are, seeking specific positions, within the company, especially ones that, the ones that they're hiring for, the ones they posted on CareerLink, the ones that you can find on their profile in our event page on CareerLink. Um, because some employer wants to know how can they help you? Like, what are you trying to focus on? And then discussing like what are your unique selling points? And so, again, based on your goal, if your goal is like, oh yeah, for that operations assistant position, I really want to go for this. And so, describing why are you qualified, and to answer that, it's talking about relevant projects, internships, work experience, volunteering, anything that you can ideally relate back to that position or to your goal there. Um, and so, again, you don't have to give them your whole resume because they'll already, you already give them a copy of that. But again, what are those like highlights that's going to draw their attention? That's going to make them like, oh, wow, like that sounds great to me. And then discussing why are you interested in the company? And so, of course, based on your goal, you're like, oh, this position is what I really want to apply for. And so, of course, you want to talk about your interest in that, but also the company too. And so, for example, if it's, oh, I really appreciate how you have a mentorship program for new interns and it lets them explore different departments. That's really what I'm looking for. And so that shows, again, you've done the research, about that program, you're tying it back to the position. And so I think that's a really good point to bring up as well. And then, I think it can be helpful, depending on how the conversation is going, if you want to end with a relevant question, because it keeps the flow there versus like, this is who I am, and that is it. And so a question kind of keeps that conversation moving there. And for the question in the chat, and so, oh, I definitely recommend making copies of your resume to bring and to give to the employers. Um, And so what I'd recommend is, and it depends, sometimes I just ask for it from the get-go. Usually I recommend giving it to them near the end of the conversation because sometimes I feel like if you're like, hi, I'm so and so, here you go. It's like, okay, all right, we're getting right into it. Because again, you want to give them that, overview of who you are first. You want them to get that better understanding. So when they get the resume at the end and when they do review it later, it's like, okay, this was like kind of like a summary of what we were talking about in our conversation there. But again, if they're like, please, oh, can I get your resume? Please just give it to them, right in that moment then. All right, and so I do have some examples of elevator pitches here just to give you some ideas there. And so before we get into the examples though, and so this is a nice way to kind of help you plan out your elevator pitch. And so if we're look at what's my goal? I'm looking for a chemical engineering internship. In what ways am I qualified? And so for this, we have an example from, kind of like academic knowledge in terms of like applying, thermodynamic laws here. And also you mentioned like a lab. So again, academics. We have, oh, you were an ASI rep. These are the skills you developed. Oh, we also have an off-campus job. You worked in and out, and you were able to take on different roles as a cook and cashier. So we have different, highlights about yourself that you're bringing up here. And I really do want to recommend if you're like, oh, if you're in a situation where you're like, oh, I don't have any experiences, I'm not sure what to speak on. That's where I really recommend we can bring in those academic experiences because you can talk about, projects you worked on in teams. You can talk about, any presentations you had to do. You can discuss, yeah, labs you were a part of, or even just your classes, like what were you learning, what kind of work you were doing with like papers, etc. And so we can really highlight those skills then. And also, again, when you're talking to classmates and your professors, those are like people skills, those are interpersonal skills, those are communication skills you're using. But if you're also in a situation where you're like, I have like some experiences, but they're not related to what I'm looking for, but those are the only things I can talk about. Please still bring those up because we still want to let them know that, hey, I have these experiences and it's okay if they're not in that same field there because when you talk about them, you just really want to show those transferable skills where for example, I think I work with a lot of like engineering students. And, I think for some of them, they're like, oh, I've only had experience working, at like, in and out working at, like Burger King, for example. So they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. But they're like, oh, but that's my only job that I've had. And I'm like, let's still bring that up because in you working, within like the food retail industry, you can still bring up, you're working in a team, you're multitasking. You're also working with like, some like, machinery, with like, for, like making, like the patties or the fries. And we can still show those transferable skills there. And so that's what I really recommend. And to go back to this, so why are you interested? And so, oh, I noticed the projects you worked on with like water and wastewater and storage and distribution. And I really want to be a part of that and help further development. And so that's why you're interested. And then what are my questions? And so the questions can range. It's based on what you're looking for. It could be, can you share like, oh, I see you have a training program. What is that first year like? Or, oh, like what are the kinds of career paths, I could pursue within the company? Like, is it mainly like I enter into this role and I would stay here, or people tend to move up in like management? And so again, I think this is a nice way to help you frame that elevator pitch there. And so for some examples, and so we have here. So, hello, my name is Jane. I'm a junior at CSULB and I am studying healthcare administration. So already we have your name, what year you are, and we have your major. I'm impressed with your organization's commitment to developing future leaders in healthcare management through your leadership training program. And so I can already see, I see your research and I also see, let's see, you have your aware of our program here. This is a passion I've come to develop during my time at Cal State Long Beach. As a member of the Healthcare Executive Student Alliance, I have developed communication and leadership skills that I regularly apply in my academic projects and part-time job at a local healthcare clinic. And so, okay, I can see, leadership and growing in that area is something you're passionate about, and you have experience in that, not only with a student org, but also with a local clinic. I'm an active member and I hope to run for office next semester. I'm curious about any other details you can provide regarding the leadership training program. And so it's like, okay, now we have that kind of like next follow-up. We have like your overview here. Oh, I do recommend not saying yours as quickly as I did. I just want to make sure we have time for the other examples. And so you can take it slower there. All right, just so they can also capture like everything you're saying to them. But again, yeah, we have those different parts. So we have some skills, we have some experiences, we have your quick intro, and we have, that ending off with that next question. And we have, it sounds like, your goal here is the leadership training program. And so as another example, and so I won't read this one out, but just to kind of highlight, again, you have your name, you have your year, you have your major, and then we have some experiences. Okay, so Ocean View Elementary, student teacher. We have some examples of the work that you were doing there. And then we have like your kind of like your core expertise area, so again, more skills. And for this one, it didn't end off with a question. That's okay. And, this we're just ending off with, I'm very excited about, an opportunity to be able to join your team there. And so, yeah, but again, it has most of those components that I showed earlier there. So again, for a elevator pitch, there's different ways you can like format it and, how you describe, your experiences. But I would definitely say the main key parts are, what are you looking for? And also what kinds of skills and experiences that you have can you bring, to help you with that goal there. Okay, and so now for some, additional tips here. So definitely prepare your resume. I do recommend for the fair keeping it to one page. Just makes it easier, I think, when you're passing it out as well, and for the employers to quickly scan. And make sure it's up to date. If there's any changes, if you're like, oh, I stopped working at that job, make sure to update the date for that. Make sure it's organized, easy to read, and definitely tailoring to the companies and job descriptions. And so this goes back to the research you were doing with company websites, with LinkedIn, Glassdoor, with CareerLink, with the job postings. You can see what are they looking for with keywords, what are some recurring themes, like, oh, they really emphasize collaboration and like diversity. And so I do recommend bringing multiple copies. I always say it's safe to bring more than you need because there's a chance where you're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even realize this company was going to be here, or I just want to go up and talk to them. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm actually really interested in this. And so I do recommend that. Um, if you do need extra copies and you run out, I would say the closest places would be I would say that would be the Horn Center. Yes, Horn Center, I think would be closer, or the library to be able to print. Um, and so I also do recommend, I think it's helpful to bring like something to take notes on. So whether it's like a notebook or just kind of like a sheet of paper. And so again, it's not rude to be taking notes when you're talking to employers. I actually encourage it. The key thing is though, you want to have a balance. You don't want to just, that's great. Thank you so much. Because you're not making eye contact. It feels very disconnected. It doesn't feel like you're engaged with them. But if you're like every so often, just kind of taking some notes, that's fine. Because again, you want to show that you're still being respectful to them, but also the employers understand you're talking to a lot of people. You have a lot that you need to keep track of. And so I think this is a nice way to bring up like key points you brought up with employers, just so you don't mix them up. And then also like another key part, like how do they want you to, how can you follow up with them, for example? Like, oh, will it be through email or they'll reach out to you instead? Okay, and so make sure to brainstorm questions for company representatives. And so again, this is a way for you to, yeah, be ready to, just learn more about the company. And so you can ask about, a wide variety of questions. They can be more broad, more general, they can be much more specific, detailed. And it really shows that interest as well. Just because like in an interview, I would recommend always asking questions. And I think in the job fair, it is almost like mini interviews essentially. It's that conversation about who you are, who they are. And again, it's really important for you to learn more about the job and company and see if it's actually a good fit for you. Because on paper it could sound great, but when you talk to them, you're like, oh, I didn't realize that the work would be conducted in that way. I thought it would be maybe like more simpler, for example. And so I also really recommend to avoid talking about salary. Again, salary, this is something that would typically come up later in like the interview process if you do move forward with them. Um, Unless the employer brings it up, if they're bringing it up, then, you can, talk about that there. But again, it's just like a courtesy there, because usually salary comes up again for interviewing because at that point it's like we are seriously considering hiring you, and of course salary is a very important aspect of that process. And so I do recommend, I think bringing with you, it's totally okay if you have your backpack, they get it. You're in between classes, it's a school day. We don't have a place where you can store them. So again, you would have to hold on to it. And so I do recommend trying not to bring maybe too much that day. Um, if you wanted to maybe just use a small bag and have a folder with you, just to make it easier to navigate the fair. But let's say you're like, oh, I want to store my things somewhere. I think we still do have these lockers. Um, and someone can correct me if we don't, but I think we do. These are kind of in the middle, like as you're walking in that long hallway down to the library. I think you'll see them maybe kind of near like some of like the vending machines, I think. And so you could store it there. Or I think also with the rec center too. The rec center should have like lockers you can place your belongings to. But again, a lot of students I see have carrying their backpacks though. Okay, and so this is to go back to, the kinds of questions you can be asking them. And so you can be asking a variety. It could be, when is the best time to apply for internships? What are some skills you're looking for in candidates? What's kind of like a typical day in the life or this position that you're hiring for? Oh, there's no openings now. Do you think positions will come up in the future, maybe for the summertime? Like when would you post those? How do you advertise those? And so again, yeah, you can have these different questions prepared and ready to go there. And so now for dress for success. So dress accordingly. So I would say overall, when it comes to any professional event, conservative business attire is the most common, and I have some examples of that in the next few slides. And I do recommend not wearing things that can distract. So very heavy perfume, a lot of jewelry, because I don't want the employer to be focusing on like, like your earrings or like, oh my God, it has a very strong smell. And so, also avoid anything that's too casual, where I know it does depend because, let's say you're like, I don't have time to change. I need to go straight here. And so, if you're not able to dress up, if you're like, this is all I can manage, then, of course you can still come. And so I would say not to put too much pressure on yourself there with like your attire, but I really do recommend dressing up if you are able to, maybe bringing a bag, extra change of clothes. So anything that's too casual, like if you're wearing like, maybe like a tank top and like shorts and like sandals. It's like very casual, or anything too revealing as well. Again, just to be professional there. And so these are some examples of, again, that kind of more conservative business attire. And so business casual, we have like kind of like, a blouse. We have kind of like a blazer or a sweater. We have, kind of like a nice light coat jacket. We've got like a button down. We have like some dress pants or like some slacks. And we have some like pumps or like flats or like leather shoes here or like dress shoes. And so this is like, some examples here. And we also have business formal. Business formal tends to be more of those like matching two-piece sets, like the kind of like full-on suit, like, blue and blue here, like a tie, like a white dress shirt. Um, I got like another button up here, like a suit jacket. So it's fairly similar to the business casual there. And so yeah, again, just some examples there for you to keep in mind. And so I would say, I think when, from my experiences with the job fair, I would say I see like a good number of students who are in those kind of like suit, kind of like, suit jacket and top and kind of like the matching colored pants on bottom. But I also see different kind. I see, some people with like skirts or just kind of with like a very formal blouse. Or I see some people who have like maybe like a polo shirt and like some slacks. And so, we have different kinds of, approaches that students take to it. And so again, whatever you're able to, um, come dressed in, and yeah, also just trying your best to keep with more of, yeah, kind of like, from these two pictures, kind of going along with this theme here, for your outfit. All right, and so for during the fair. So during the fair, so it definitely can feel kind of overwhelming and confusing. Like there's a lot of lines. Where does this line end? Okay, I can't even see the company I'm looking for. Please use your map. And so remember, you can always take a pause. And so, maybe again, you can just kind of like take a walk around, kind of, just scope out where, the employers are. and you can always take a break as well. I would say though, if you do go outside the fair, I do believe that you would need to wait in line to be able to re-enter again, where you wouldn't have to check in, but I believe you would have to wait in line um, to be able to, yeah, just to for re-entry there, even though you've already checked in. Um, and so let's see. So I do recommend if you are going to take a break, um, maybe for like a break, if you're like, oh, I just want to do something quick, I don't have to wait in line again. Maybe just kind of go off to the side of the room where there's more space and just kind of like, just kind of, take some time for yourself there. But if you're like, no, like I'm going to take maybe like an hour break, and like, okay, you can head on out and then just kind of come back in line to come back in then. All right. And so again, the fair is going to be located in the USU ballroom. So we do have all students lined up outside. And so basically, it's where that coffee bean tea leaf is. We are in the area right next to it. So we're having students wait in the area right outside the USU there, right next to the coffee bean and tea leaf. And you'll see a lot of staff and people around there. And so this is what it looks like when you do come in. And so we are going to be checking in students. And when you check in, you'll get a wristband, you'll get your papers as well. Let's see. And so, yeah, and again, you'll also get a name tag as well to be able to, go around the fair with, help you with your networking there. And you're also going to see a lot of huge like signs that have like all the companies that are here, what number table they're at, what positions they're hiring for. But also we give you those like smaller versions of basically this sign. And you also get like the map as well with how it's all set up there. All right, so again, for during the fair, and so I do recommend being punctual, but again, you have class or other commitments, that's totally okay. You can come later. And so I do recommend actually coming early because again, that way you get a, queue up earlier and also be let in into the space earlier, which means that you'll be able to, when we do open the doors at 12 p.m., be able to, be kind of more at the front of like the crowd there. And so again, I really do recommend managing your expectations. And so again, not every employer is going to be acting the same. Some may be super energetic and happy. Some may be much more serious, much more straightforward. Some may really want to like, hey, how's it going? How are you? And some may be, very straight, "Oh, thank you. All right. So, what are you looking for?" And so, yeah, just keep that in mind. And again, some will have different processes and interview types. Some may say like, yes, we're going to be hiring like, like 2 months from now, and please email us at that time. Some may say, we're going to send an email to all the students who are interested in our company, and we're going to follow up that way. Um, and so just to not feel like every employer will be the same there. And I think what's helpful is trying to visit tables that have fewer crowds first. And so because that way, it means, you're most likely going to be, get to talk to the employer, sooner rather than later. And I also do recommend if you're trying to kind of gauge how some tables are, instead of just waiting in line, maybe you just kind of go off, you're kind of passing by, you're kind of off to the side, um, just kind of observing, how it's going at the different tables, just to see, how it's like when employers are talking to the students, how the students are talking to them, especially if it's your first time and you're trying to kind of get like more like insights there about just how it goes. And then, so like what I was saying before, take down those notes and key points from the employers. I also do recommend not saying you'll take any job because on one hand, it's like I do appreciate the flexibility, but also for employers, I really think that that can show a lack of focus and direction. And it doesn't seem like you have a specific goal. You're just trying to get any job, and it feels like, oh, so you're not really interested in us, then you're not really passionate about the work. You'll just take anything. So I do recommend staying away from that phrase. And, try to stay off your cell phone. Again, especially, as you're waiting to talk to them, I think, of course, if you have to check something or to text someone back, totally can, but you don't want to just seem glued to your phone the entire time during the fair. And, take initiative. If you're like, I don't know where the line is, excuse me, does it end here? Are you in line? Okay, sounds good. Um, you know, have a positive professional attitude. Keep in mind, a lot of the tables are close to each other. Employers can overhear, like maybe, let's say someone accidentally, kind of ran into you Please, don't start yelling at them because there's a good chance the employer you want to talk to may hear that and see that, and they do not appreciate that. So again, just positive, professional, and again, be prepared for any questions that the employers may ask as well. In terms of, oh, what do you know about our company? How did you find us? And again, for example, like, oh, what are your biggest strengths here? So again, kind of like those, kind of like similar, like maybe like interview questions there too. And so, like what I was saying before, I do recommend giving out your resume at the end of the conversation there or like near the end. Um, and definitely ask for business cards if they have any. And, when it comes to their materials, and I do say to be careful with the freebies. I know sometimes they have a lot of cool freebies, they're like water bottles or like stress balls, or like AirPod cases. I would say, you can take some, but not to like do a whole haul here. Like, oh, I'm taking everything because you want to show that you're mainly focused on the company versus like I'm just here for like the free stuff. And then definitely during this fair, take time to like network with other students, campus members, um, especially while you're waiting in line. But I also do recommend not to have it be distracting, especially if you're like the person behind the person who's talking to the employer and you're just kind of chatting, 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 and you're kind of getting loud. It could be distracting for the employer there. So just keep that in mind. All right. And so again, when it comes to employer expectations, they're definitely looking for, overall, ideally professional attire, a professional resume, good communication, eye contact, very important, clear employment objective, you have a clear, distinct goal here. And also in terms of what do you have to offer the company? Because it's one thing to talk about your experiences, it's another to talk about it in a way that is tailored to the company and to the position you're going for with that company. All right, so to take us to this last section after the fair. So organize your research, get all those notes while it's all still fresh. Write down what you talk about, the job posting, what the description of it is, how they want you to follow up with them, their contact info as well. And then, of course, you did it. Congratulations. And really reflect on that experience. What do you feel like you did well? What would you like to improve on? How networking went for you? And also, we do have a job fair survey we send out to students who attended. So we really appreciate any feedback because, again, your feedback will help us with, oh, were you looking for different kinds of employers in this area? How could we improve the event? Or what did you really enjoy about it as well? And so for the follow-up, so this does depend on how they want you to follow up with them. But overall, I do recommend, sending individual thank you emails within 24 hours. I recommend sending it out on that same day. Um, and just in case you weren't able to find their inf or just in case you misplaced their information, you can go back to you can go to career link and you can look at the employer or like the job posting they were hiring for and you want to check for contact information there. But that's why just in case for some reason if they didn't include it in career link, I always recommend getting that contact info when you do talk to them. And then when you do follow up with them in that email, make sure to mention something specific, like a unique detail that you spoke about with the employer. So not just, oh, I loved hearing about blank job. Because then it's like, oh, everyone, I feel like maybe if they're only hiring for that position, maybe you have 20 other students saying, oh yeah, thank you for talking about the operations assistant. And it doesn't sound like super, unique there. And so it could be like, oh, I love talking about your experience with graduate school and how that really helped prepare you for that career change into like business management. So something more unique there. And this will help the employer remember you because they're going to be getting so many thank you emails. Just keep that in mind. You are not the only email. We are, not the only campus that they may be working with to go to job fairs. Um, but again, overall, make sure to follow the representative's instructions about applying for the positions or how to follow up with them. And then, yeah, after the fair, if you got feedback about your resume, or if you're like, oh, I really want to include this for next time, make those updates. Or if you're like, if you saw someone else's resume, you're like, oh, I loved how you formatted that. I'm going to do that for mine too. And for LinkedIn, I would recommend, I think this is a great way to keep up your online presence. LinkedIn essentially is like a networking platform. I would say it is like the biggest networking platform to my knowledge. And You can connect with the employers and recruiters if they're on LinkedIn. And yeah, just making sure that if you do connect to people, I would say make sure your profile is up to date. Just if they don't go to your profile and they're like, I don't see a picture, I don't see skills, I don't see experiences, then it kind of doesn't make it worth it to almost have a connection if they're like, oh, you don't really use LinkedIn, but you're still trying to connect with me. And so I do recommend making any updates there. And then, when it comes to those thank you emails, and so this is an example. So the thank you email is pretty short and sweet. And so it's dear so and so. I hope this email finds you well. Just, thank you for speaking to me at the, CSULB Career Fair today. I really appreciate learning more about the company name and the exciting marketing projects you're implementing, especially, this is kind of a unique detail, the innovative applications to digital marketing and brand positioning we discussed. And then from there, we have kind of some ending notes. This really reinforced my interest to pursue marketing and, per your direction, I'm going to send my application to your company website. Thank you again. So again, it's, this is thank you for speaking to me. This is where I spoke to you. This is, kind of highlights what we talked about. And this is how, these are kind of like the next steps for us. I'm going to submit my application. Thank you again as a courtesy. And so again, very short and sweet there. And so, yeah, so with that, to end us off here for today, we have resources. And so, firstly, if you go to our website, csp.edu/career-development-center, if you go to get to our job fairs, you're going to see a bunch of tabs on the top. You'll go to students, click on that. Then, for the question in the chat, yes, I'll be sending out the presentation slides to everyone who registered. And the YouTube recording will also be available sometime later today, depending on how long it takes to process. And you'll click on students, then you'll click on events and workshops, and then you'll click on job fairs. And then you'll see the Making the Most of the Job Fair handout, which has a lot of great information there as well for tips before, during, and after the job fair. And then, for other events we have in general, we have employer panels, we have on-campus interviews, we have industry spotlights, for you to get more of, those experiences with employers there. And so just make sure to check our events and workshops calendar to see what we have coming up. And so for support, let's see. Yes, perfect. Perfect timing for the question in the chat. You can get help with building a resume and drop-in advising or career counseling. And so drop-in advising, so these are like kind of quicker sessions, 15 to 20 minutes with career peer advisors. And so we can definitely, talk about, resume building there. We can talk about, like LinkedIn, talking about approaching the job fair as well. And so you can access this via your career link or Beach Connect. So for example, I think the fastest way would be career link because you'll go to career link, the platform we were on for the event. Then you'll go to resources and you'll scroll down and you'll see drop-in advising. That's the Zoom link. But you can also do it in person as well. We're open Monday through Friday for drop-in 12 to 3 p.m. But on Tuesdays, from 3 to 6:30, we do have extended hours, but for Tuesdays 3 to 6:30, that is only on Zoom. And so if you have questions again, about hours or how to access the link, you can always give us a call to our front desk. And then for career counseling, so these are longer, these are appointments. So these are 30 to 60 minutes with career counselors. And you'll schedule these via Beach Connect, which you can find on your single sign-on. And you can do Zoom and in person or phone. I will say career counseling, we do tend to book up very quickly. So drop-in tends to be easier for people. But I do recommend, try not to come. Usually, I would say if you come by like around like 2 o'clock, you're pretty guaranteed that you can see someone. But, we've had it where students come at like 2:30, 2:45, and we already had students already lined up before them. And so I do recommend ideally coming, earlier if you're able to. Um, and again, you don't have to have a resume ready to go. If this is your first time making one, we can help you with getting started with like, oh, what sections to include, how to format it. All right, and so with that, everyone, I know that was a lot of information. Again, I will be emailing out the slides to everyone today. The YouTube recording will be available today, hopefully if everything's good with YouTube. But with that, thank you all for coming. I'm going to end the recording here. See, all right, we're going to stop recording. And so let me see. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that so much in the chat. Thank you so much. But yes, let's see. Oh, let me stop recording.